You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
And we are back for round 4 of this ETS Week 3 Open. I am Sir Rhino, and here to help me break down this round's action of two 3-0 players is LocoPojo. How you doing, Loco?
I'm doing great. We got a pair of exciting decks lined up. First up is SecondBlue on Grenadins, a relatively new archetype with Dusk Road, running out the Gear Crunchers and Stone Scar Scrappers, along with Scrap Tank at the top, and 2 of Crimson Firemaw, which I do really like in this deck for the cool discounts that it offers. I think that's a pretty interesting choice.
Yeah, the discounts, and it's a flying body, so that's not a bad spot to be. SecondBlue's had a lot of success with Grenadins, got to the finals, got second place with Grenadins in the first week of this season's ETS, so has had some success with it and having success with it today. On the other side, Kroge is bringing Argenport Midrange, a deck that we're all quite familiar with. There's always some little differences, though, and Kroge is opting to go without the Tinker Overseers anywhere in this build and instead going with the Auric Interrogators to go with a bit of a grindier, more card draw, deliberate style, which I don't know if that's in his favor for this matchup against Grenadins. I think he'd rather have the extra flying bodies and try and be the beatdown.
Yeah, it can be very solid with cards like Bloodletter to get you that extra lifesteal and get you ahead of the game. But the main problem here is that the Argenport midrange deck, while it does have some really, really great late game in the form of Taprot or Broker, does not have that many ways of dealing with the Grenadin late game, which is largely composed of Gear Cruncher and Scrap Tank. Like when you have just that many tokens on the board, like you're just not going to get through, and Gear Cruncher will knock out your units one at a time.
Yeah, but Kroge has a pretty good hand lined up here against SecondBlue, as SecondBlue, has a couple Devours, but not a whole lot of Devour targets. Same with the Combust. His first unit won't be until turn 5 with Scrap Tank at the moment. So we're going to see both players exchange Vera's favors, but Kroge is going to get on the board first with Auric Interrogator and 2 Impending Doom. So this is lining up very well for Kroge on Argenport midrange in this match. So
Interrogator, Bloodletter, 2 Impending Dooms. This is the kind of sort of rushy beatdown that you really want to be running when your opponent's stumbling. Combustion Cell will allow SecondBlue to play out some units pretty quickly, but only if he can find Grenadin to get the extra bonus.
yeah,
At this point, he's still kind of hurting. If he sees like a Grenadin drone next turn, he can actually play Scrap Tank on that turn. But otherwise, he's in trouble.
Yeah, but if we see a Grenadin drone, I think we're more likely to see something like Combust and Devour come out, and that's really what SecondBlue's hoping to find, but instead just finds more power, and it's going to be real tough for the Grenadin's deck to come back from this spot. With Combustion Cell, it is possible to have some pretty swingy turns, but in the face of double Impending Doom from Kroge, that's asking a whole lot. And yeah, Banner being the draw for turn means you can Granite Waystone, make a Grenadin, Devour, and see what comes up, but instead we're going to, Scrap Tank Cell first, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, this is pretty good. He actually gets to combust to kill a unit off of the cell, so he can play out another blocker, get himself above Auric Runehammer, have an answer to the 4-3. That's a reasonable amount of development for someone who's been missing his first 4 turns. Kroge still has pretty good options here. He can throw out the Bloodletter. He can annihilate the Grenadin, which isn't going to do a lot here, but that would at least force something.
Yeah, and with this protect draw, this is huge for Kroge. Right now, he could, if he wants to, play the Bloodletter on Impending Doom, but he can play the Bloodletter next turn to turn it into a 2-turn clock anyways. So there's not much of a need. Instead, goes and opts to play out another Interrogator. But again, holding up this protect, as if he untaps with this Impending Doom, Kroge will win this match. So that's all he's focused on doing.
Yeah, the Devour on a blocker should keep him alive for one more turn, but Bloodletter plus Protect is a pretty big deal, and Gear Cruncher is certainly not going to save. SecondBlue has to decide if he wants to Devour ahead of time to try and find something else to play. If he does that, he loses a blocker and potentially gets lethal, but either option's not looking great for him. I really don't like that attack with the Scrap Tank.
Here he's really banking on getting something great here, or no, is just going with the Gear Cruncher and hoping his opponent doesn't have a weapon. Looks to be the play here.
Okay, yeah,
I can respect
Bloodletter
that.
will kill him, but it's not a bad play. It does get him a really sizable board, so he gets to start aggressing next turn, which he won't see.
Yeah, I think playing around the fact that, like, okay, if they have Bloodletting, I lose the game, I'm behind. You kind of have to pick your poison in spots. I can respect that, thinking he has a better shot if he gets the Gear Cruncher down this turn and can start leveraging it in future turns. So the gamble didn't pay off, but when you're behind like that, sometimes you've got to take risks and hope that they pan out for you.
Yeah, and at least he gets a decent setup here for next round. Hopefully he'll be able to find something that can deal with these Grenadin a little better.
Yeah, so we'll go to sideboards now, and up to SecondBlue to try and even up this series. Has some interesting options out of the board. Can grab some sabotages of his own and try and fight fire with fire if he wants. Suffocate hits a decent number of units traditionally in Archboard mid-range, but with Interrogator being Kroge's weapon of choice, maybe not as strong as you would normally think. But the Annihilate's torches are cool. Rally is an interesting one of in the Grenadin's list as well. Don't know if we're going to see that here.
Yeah, on the other hand, Kroge doesn't seem to have access to a lot of interesting options here. He's got some Protects to defend against the Combusts. He has Annihilates, which kill Gear Crunchers, which is always nice, but Vanquish is not helping him here. The Orc Runehammer's not doing much. Steward of the Past silences Grenadin, but that doesn't really do anything. So, yeah, I mean, the only thing that's kind of interesting here is Mokto for the long game, but mostly it doesn't really look like he's going to see a lot of cards that he wants to put in.
Yeah, all right. We got to fix up some audio issues there, but we're working on that. And yeah, with Kroge on the other end, as you said, Protects are coming in. That's the best card in this matchup for Kroge. Nervous about all those madnesses and devours and combusts and everything like that. So get those flyers down, keep them alive, and win the race is the key here. And we'll see. We're going to get into this match shortly. I lost my hand cam on one end. We're having some fun technical difficulties here. It wouldn't be an Eternal Tournament series if everything didn't start burning in the background. Right?
It's all on fire. It's all on fire. All right. Have you got audio from me, Rhino, at this point?
I've got audio from you, but I think in the Discord backend you're unmuted, so I'm getting...
Okay, exciting. Well,
there we go.
Remute myself.
All right. All the curtain's been pulled back now. The illusion's gone, but it's all fixed up. So yeah, we're giving the players the go ahead here. We're gonna jump into the observation deck.
The magic is gone, Rhino.
Magic's
all right.
gone, only eternal.
Okay, so we're up in the game against Kroge, seeing Valkyrie Enforcer and Unseen Commando in his opening hand. That's pretty strong to start with, and we see the Annihilate as well. So it's not looking too bad. He actually gets a reasonable amount of stuff here to play on turn 3. No early aggression, and the Unseen Commando is a little bit slow against Grenadin, but for the most part, just having a big lifesteal unit can really help out here.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, shiny Sparkcatcher. I like the look of that. Kroge opting to not hold up Annihilate here. Doesn't think he's going to want to use it on a Sparkcatcher, saving it for the bigger fish to fry out of SecondBlue's deck, which potentially could be the Crimson Firewall I was talking about. But more importantly, Stone Scar Scrapper and Gear Cruncher are what these Annihilates are reserved for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Grenadin have a lot of like really unique and interesting designs. This one kind of reminds me of the little robots from Nier.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an adorable little trash bucket.
Oh, he's not a trash bucket. But all right, there is Crimson Fireball. Did stay in. Has no fear of Rune Hammers punishing the Fireballs for health, and Kroge will opt to just pass with Annihilate up. Going to use it on Fireball as it swings in. Does give SecondBlue the opening to use Devour if he has it, and
yeah,
Devour.
That's a little bit rough there. Like certainly, if he used the Annihilate ahead of time, then he would have still denied the attack, and the Devour would not have been available. But it gets him a reasonable amount of extra stuff.
Yeah, it still forces SecondBlue to use Devour on a turn where he probably had access to 5 power and could have added more pressure with something like a Scrap Tank. So it's not the end of the world. And now Kroge finds a Tower Rod, which I don't think we'll see come down with a Protect in hand, but
Oh, he's
What do I
playing it.
know?
Combust is a problem. Madness is an even bigger problem, but I think overall he's probably fine. Yeah, you don't really have a lot of things that you can do with Madness against Tavrod. He doesn't have any weapons that he can draw, I think. And
I'm
it's not
just
like there's
really
any Minotaur.
surprised to see Tavrod come out there. I know he's not that important in this Grenin's matchup, so you're not too concerned about protecting him. As a lot of times what will happen is if you have a Tavrod in play for a while against Grenin's, you deck yourself because all he does is get more ground units and more weapons.
Yep, Tavrod has real drawbacks on occasion. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah, so instead hoping Tavrod actually absorbs some removal, and the real star of this show, Unseen Commando, can get the job done. But Double Torch is the answer here from SecondBlue, and we're basically in top deck mode. Kroge with an Annihilate in hand, SecondBlue with a Silent Sparkcatcher on the board, and I'm not sure what's in hand. I've lost sight of it, but it's at least not a sigil as a depleted Seed of Chaos comes out.
I think top decks slightly favor SecondBlue. Most of what the Argenport deck is looking to do is push through with big flyers, and if SecondBlue pulls Combusts, then he counters the top decks, and if he pulls cards like Scrap Tank or the Gear Cruncher, then he just wins the games. There's just a higher percentage of cool cards for SecondBlue to pull, whereas Kroge's deck is pretty heavily centered around Tavrod, and without just being able to get Tavrod across, it's going to be a little bit rougher.
Yeah, so Instigator, not a bad draw, though, for Kroge. Would have preferred to see a bigger flying body, but still, this is okay pressure. SecondBlue, though, at 27, goes for the quad block to play around Annihilate and all of that. So that'll take the Instigator off the board, but also means he loses 3 Greninons. So if he top decks something like a Scrapper, it won't be able to get activated here.
Yeah, I think a triple block might have actually been slightly better since you're planning against the finest hour in Kroge's side, and so that's the only card that would have made a difference between 2 and 3 extra blocks.
Well,
I guess double Annihilate.
The problem. Yeah,
if there's a double Annihilate, then that is the correct block.
Yeah, or if you triple block with Hatcher, Greninson, or something like that, the Annihilate just goes on the Hatcher. But you have a Gear Cruncher. That's why you're okay with throwing away Greninons, because it'll reload you.
We see the Annihilate come out. That was saved specifically for that Gear Cruncher. Argenport Instigator is still a pretty good card against Greninson, but there's a lot of Greninson on this field, and a Suffocate means that he's now attacking in for 5 a turn, and Instigator actually provides SecondBlue with a 2-turn clock, yeah.
Yep, and power draw step there for Kroge shows the issue with this Argenport list. Once you go into top deck mode and you don't have a Tavrod in play, you are at the mercy of your deck. Sure, occasionally you'll draw a crest to help smooth out things, but other than that, you have no draw manipulation. Auric Interrogator doesn't even help you out unless you have a weapon or a Dark Return for it, and we didn't even see that there.
Yeah, it's a problem that wanted posters have helped fix a little bit, but there aren't any in this particular deck.
No.
And overall, it's just it's a pretty rough setup for the Argenport deck to go into top decks. There's just not much you can do.
Right. The whole game plan for Argenport is get down an evasive threat, maybe augment it with a weapon, back it up with a protect, and hope that goes the distance. It's just in this case, the Unseen Commando got answered by a double torch with the protect backup. So it just could not give him the lifesteal flyer that he needed, and ended up Gear Cruncher making just enough value, as we talked about in top deck mode. Either Gear Cruncher was going to show up or a Stone Scar Scrapper was going to show up, and one of those was going to put the Greninons ahead once they did.
Yep. Well, that puts us into game 3. Kroge did, in fact, bring in those Moktos. I like that plan a lot. He's really going for the big evasive beatdowns here. If he can actually get the Impending Dooms or the Moktos across, that's one of his best possible strong plays against SecondBlue. The Torches here are just doing too much good work against Unseen Commando. That is one of the card's biggest weaknesses. And from here, we are seeing SecondBlue starting to stock up on Greninson.
And Kroge has to take a turn off of playing a threat. Sees a protect, but he's tight on power. So it's kind of tough to keep that on top of your deck when you've got a 4-drop and 2 5-drops. Even though protect is really nice in this matchup, I don't know if you can keep that on top here.
Yeah, he really wants to be able to play his Tavrods. He wants to be able to play Mokto and Impending Doom. I don't think that card stays on top either.
Yep, so we see it go to the bottom. Kroge is planning to try and get some of these threats out on time, clear the way for Mokto, which is your real win con, as you talked about. And we'll see what SecondBlue has here on turn 4. Granted, sometimes doesn't have a lot to do on 4. They don't naturally play too many 4-drops, although we saw SecondBlue with the Crimson Firemaw, at least in this list. Tavrod comes down, tells everybody to sharpen up, and Devour from SecondBlue will be the response.
Yep. Yeah, I'm a little worried about this Mokto, honestly. Like, the SecondBlue has access to a lot of sacrifice outlets, and I believe his deck does run at least 2 to 3 Madness, which would really provide you with that sort of upper end finishing potential that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Crazy here? Oh, no, there's no Madness in this deck. Oh, no, there's 3. Yep.
Yeah, there's 3 Madnesses in SecondBlue's list, so taking a Mokto and devouring it is awesome, awesome value. But you kind of have to accept that risk as Kroge. You need flying threats. You need to go the distance with them. And you accept the downside that sometimes SecondBlue gets to do something really, really awesome that feels bad. Sabotage the draw for Kroge. I can't see what he's looking at, but we'll find out what gets discarded here shortly.
Mile will be worth his while. So we've got the Mokto out and Impending Doom getting stacked up. Those are the flyers that he needs to win. And if he sabotages enough stuff out, there's an Annihilate down. So that allows him to play Unseen Commando, and Mokto just happens to have 2 battle skills, so that makes it a 6/6.
Yep, and the Torch was the other card in hand, so opted to play Commando this turn instead of Impending Doom, just so Mokto hit harder. Again, I don't know what else was in SecondBlue's hand. Maybe it was another Annihilate, and that might have been why he opted to not play out Impending Doom. I don't know what's in SecondBlue's hand, but in come the Grenadins. He's currently ahead in the race, and Crimson Firemaw gets slammed down and will give Vanquish or Slay a target if Kroge wants to go with that line.
Yeah, Vanquish seems like the pretty solid answer here. Killing the 5/4 is really nice, and then Slay can be reserved for the 3/4, the Gear Cruncher. So with that available, SecondBlue is going to have a hard time dealing with this flyer, and Kroge now looking at Tavrods on defense to keep him alive, or he can continue to play Impending Dooms. It's kind of starting to look like SecondBlue does have that Annihilate in hand, because he's certainly not playing Doom.
Yep, but instead a pair of Tavrods, the draw steps for Kroge here, and now the Grenadins have to be held back as SecondBlue is no longer winning this race. Tavrod opens up the vaults and finds a Bloodletter, and that's a huge pickup here to get Kroge back to a healthy life total, maybe try and get out of a Madness Burst range.
Yep, there've been a lot of Tavrod decks lately that have not been running quite as many weapons, but Bloodletter is still just a really solid one, and that does mean that your Tavrod's just hitting very, very hard. So with that set up, Kroge takes that game, and that'll be 2-1 for Kroge. He got the flying evasion he was looking for.
Yep, Kroge managed to just go the distance with Mokto. It dodges a decent amount of removal, just too many flyers that the Grenadins had to answer, and eventually one of them stuck around and went the distance.
Yeah, the Grenadin deck has the better late game in general, but just couldn't find the consistency there. The Devours and Quarries weren't like getting enough cards to actually get him into a solid mode, and all of his actual big threats were just very easily answerable for the.
Yeah, Archiport got to exactly where it wanted to be, where it gets stuck on about 5 to 6 power and just threat, removal, threat, just every turn. Where we saw in game 2, once you drain them of those resources and you had to go one card at a time, you can bury them. It just did not happen in that match.
Yep, solid play, and overall like a pretty strong showing from both players.
All right, and with that, it looks like we're not going to line up any backup matches. Instead, we're going to cut to some more highlights as we get ready for round 5 coming up next here in the Eternal Tournament Series.
All right. See you guys soon.